Hey, coaches, welcome back to Football Talk with Coach Chip. It's the summer of 2024 for those of y'all watching in the future. I hope y'all are having a great summer and your kids are getting stronger and you're getting your installs done way before August practice starts. Today we're going to be talking about 5 basic defensive fronts. I've been very careful the last 4 years not to be clickbaitish or have hot takes just to get attention. This isn't a hot take. I was talking to the legend from Virginia, Coach Bill Montjoy, and he was telling me how Joe Gibbs simplified things. And if you go back and watch those Redskins teams from the 1980s, and Coach Montjoy said Coach Gibbs believed there are only 5 basic defensive fronts. Now, there's some subgroups, but I kind of agree with him. You know, and I know there's people out there probably going to draw up a defense and take a picture of it and send it to me, which I encourage that. Yes, I do. But there's only 5. And for years, I've said there's really only 4 that I was concerned with. Even front with 7 guys in the box, 4-3. Even front with 8 men in the box, 4-4. Odd front with 7 men in the box, 3-4, 5-2. And then an odd front with the with 8 men in the box, 5-3 or a 3-3 stack, or 3-5 stack, I guess it would be. And that's the way I looked at it for years. And I wasn't far off. I'm not on Coach Gibbs's level and probably never will be. But that made sense to me. And I'm going to share that with you today. Before we do it, let's go ahead and click on like, because you know you're going to like it. That's why you're here. And if you're not a subscriber, click on subscribe. Okay? If you're a subscriber, go ahead and click on share at the end of the video and share it with your coaching buddies. All right, let's get started. All right, don't forget, we got a special summer freebie, sample practice schedules. It's a Excel spreadsheet. It's got several tabs at the bottom. Got 1 platoon, 2 platoon, got an install plan. Of course, it's done from my perspective. You'll have to change it to your offense, but you'll see how we do it, and there's another one on there too that goes big, small, big. This one here is small, big, small, medium, big. What I mean by that, groups, teach small, teach to a little bit more kids, then teach to the whole team. And I have done that. The whole team out there, show them the play. We've done it where we went 5 minutes showing the team one play and then go about 10 minutes of ID time and then come back together for about 10 minutes of team time and then go to the next play and put 2 plays in on the first day. We got our practice going both ways and all that kind of stuff. All right, but this is a freebie. Just hit me up at siegel.chip@gmail.com. All right, there's only 5 basic defensive fronts. Okay, number 1, the over front. All of this you're going to notice is predicated on the guards. Are guards covered? Are guards uncovered? This is how Coach Gibbs came about that. You remember now, he coached with Coryell. He coached with, I forget who he coached with in college. He coached with some big name guys, legendary guys, before he went on to have a great career in his own right. So this is not some fly-by-night guy. This is Coach Joe Gibbs, his philosophy on defensive fronts and how he taught his offense to react and how to, to know what to do. But the over front, the over has the weak side guard uncovered with the center and strong side guard covered. I know it's an even front. It's a 4-3, college 4-3 looking thing. But all the DLs being an outside techs, and this is a great defensive front for small schools. Because look at it, 1D line coach can coach them all at the same time. They're all playing outside shoulder techniques. You got a 5, you got a 1, you got a 3, you got a 9. It's all the same technique. They're reading through the V of the neck, squeezing the whole 9 yards, and it's all the same thing. I'll give you an example. Back in the early 2000s, one of our players that went on to play college ball, then had a nice career in the league, Steve McClendon, is recently retired. He was on the 2020 Bucks team that won the Super Bowl. I guess that was 20, wasn't it? But anyway, the Bucks team that won the Super Bowl recently, he was on that team. And he was a 9, and he was trouble. He was trouble for defenses. For offenses. He was trouble for them. He was a disruptor. And what he got hurt. He hurt his knee and missed like 3 games. Well, then we took our 3 tech, who was our next most athletic defensive lineman, moved him to the injured player's position, because remember, he's been learning this position all year, but it's the same cockeye technique. And then we took our fifth best, had the four best starting, or fifth best lineman, and put him at the 3. And you can roll with it that way. You're making these guys fungible resources, which means they're plug and play, interchangeable parts. That's what fungible means. And so they're all the same. They're all playing the same technique. And I know I used to talk about offense, but that's a little defensive thing. But we are talking about offense. All the DLs are in outside techs. That means one coach can teach them all the same thing. And there's your uncovered lineman right there, in this case, the left guard. And that's what makes this an over front. There you see 5, 1, 3, and 9 across the front. All right, now this is 1A. This is the over front that we've run a lot at the high school level over the years. Back in the 90s, we ran. And you say, Coach, that's what they do in a split 40, right? No, there's some 4-3 teams that do it too. And we ran this over front. And I cannot remember if we were in a 1 or a 2I. But what we did, we let the Sam backer and the DN swap alignments. If you go back and you look at the previous, now you see he's inside the tight end and he's outside. And if you go to the next one, this is 1A, you put him in a 7. Guys, I'm telling you, a 7 is a disruptor. When I was running zone, if I had a 7 tech, we were going to run zone weak because he is a disruptor. He messes with because he can beat the tight end inside if he's just decent. And you're getting your double team here on the 3, but you can't double team him because you got to get double team on the 3. And so we always would run zone weak versus a 7. And when we started doing without tight ends, it made it a whole lot easier. I had a good old line coach tell me sometimes a tight end just clutters things up if they're going to run a 7. And then notice we put the Sam outside. It's still an over front because look, guard's uncovered. Defensive front number 2. The under front. The under has the guard on the strong side of the formation uncovered. All right, this is like when you flip, you're flipping the 3 and the 1 is what you're doing. Back when I was a young coach, we called it a weak eagle. 3 techs used to be called like back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, I guess, because when I started playing in the 70s, we called it an eagle. You eagle down. When we would eagle down to a 3 tech. And then when I got to college, I didn't even hear number techniques till I got to college. But the under front, it's very similar, but you're flipping to 3. You're flipping the tackle and the nose. Okay. Some like to put the strong side DN in a 4I, depending on the situation. This is a good run defense, but it's still an under front because notice what's uncovered. The strong side guard is uncovered, and that's what makes it an under front. If you go back, the over front, it's the weak side guard that's uncovered, making it an over. So over and under are opposite of each other, and there you have it. There you see, the strong side guard is uncovered. All the DL are in odd techs again, right here, and that means one coach can coach them all. All right, number 3, the third basic defensive front. That's the even front. And I know y'all probably are saying, well, that other stuff was even too. It's even mathematically with 4D linemen. But for the sake of what Coach Gibbs and Coach Montjoy called their fronts and how they put them in the families, Coach Montjoy quoted something to me about Urban Meyer one time, said, there's 70, 80 different fronts any given defense can get into. There's no way we can prepare our offensive line for that many fronts. So you have to limit them. And so they limited the Redskins, the Washington football team, the Commanders now, the maroon and gold, they limited them to 5. The even front has both guards covered and an uncovered center. You see, this makes, if you can teach your kids the 5 fronts, the 5 basic fronts, they'll be, especially your center, so he can call it and identify. This is going to go a long way in helping you be more productive on your offensive line. And again, some like to put the DN in a 7 tech, and that is still an under front. Now, back in the day, this is what we called back in the 80s and early 90s, we called this a split 40. Because notice it is split. There's nobody on the center, and that's where that term comes from. You got a 5, a 2I, a 3, and a 9. In the even front, you got an uncovered center. Okay, it's a split 40. And there it is when you put strong side DN in the 7. Of course, the Sam backer plays outside. And you see a lot of 4-4 teams do this. They'll get in this front, and they'll have the outside backer out here that play. He's more of like a space player, more of a safety type, and this guy over here on the strong side is more of a run stopper type. And this is very common, a 7 tech in an even front. But it doesn't change. If he gets in a 9, it's still an even front. If he's in a 7, it's still an even front. All right, number 4 of the 5 basic defensive fronts, according to Joe Gibbs and Bill Montjoy. Number 4 is the okie front. Of course, it got its name because Bud Wilkerson popularized the odd front at Oklahoma back in the 50s. And so people started calling it an okie. For a while, that term kind of disappeared. And several years ago, I was listening to some D coordinators talk, and they were calling it an okie front again. And now I got young coaches that I talk to that I know good fire well don't know why it's called an okie front. But it's called an okie front because Bud Wilkerson popularized it when he was winning 40-something regular season games in a row at Oklahoma back in the 50s. It's also can be known as a 3-4. When I was in school, we called it a 5-2. Nowadays, they call it a 3-4. With spread teams, and you get those outside backers out of the box, it looks like a 3-2. But whether it's 5 or 3 depends on the outside backers. So what's the difference between a 5-2 and a 3-4? What's the difference between a 3-5 and a 5-3? The outside backers. Okay, what is the philosophy of the defensive coordinator? What is that team trying to accomplish? Do they have more like athletes here, space players, or do they have guys that are, Lawrence Taylor type guys that can get down there and put their hand in the dirt or stand up right there and mix it up? You're not going to have a Lawrence Taylor on your team. Sorry. But it depends on that. Like we played a team several years ago. People said, oh, they're in a 3-4. I said, no, man, that's a 5-2. And they said, oh, it's the same thing. I said, no, watch those stand-up DNs. That's what they were. They were playing an old school 5-2. And they were playing a lot of man, which you have to do if you're going to put your wide receivers out there. But the Ds may line up in a 5, 4, 4-eye. The nose may line up in a 1 or a 0. But it's still an okie. Okay, if you got uncovered guards on both sides, that's what they call an okie front. Okay, so whether it's a 5 or 3, depends on the outside backers, it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. What is the defense trying to accomplish? They want big old run stoppers in here. They're going to play up on the line. Like a lot of teams today running the tight front, and they're playing these guys up here. They're playing a 5-man front and daring your butt to throw the football, daring you to try to get outside of them because John Brown sure ain't letting you come up inside in that tight front. All right, number 5 is the jam or the bear front. And by the way, I'm going to talk more about the tight front in a moment. The jam or the bear front, Coach Gibbs called it a jam, and he was probably calling it a jam before there was anything as a 46 defense. Buddy Ryan did not invent this front. He may have invented this front with the 7-9 squeeze over here, which is what they love to do. Okay, but he did not invent this front. We called it T&T back in the day because these guys were called tackles. So it was tackle, nose, tackle. We called it T&T. I worked with a guy one time. He called it Abbeville. Abbeville's a small town down in southeast Alabama. And he called it that because he said back when he was playing in the early 70s, Abbeville ran that front. And so he liked it. And that's why he called it Abbeville. Like I'm saying, that was the early 70s. So this front was not invented in the 80s. Is it really a bear front? If an edge and a safety are not walked down on the tight end side, that's the 7-9 squeeze we talked about. I know a coach in South Alabama, I think he won 5 state championships in 4A and 3A, going back and forth, running the split 4, true split 4. But he walked the outside backer down. He played the DN in a 7, walked the outside backer down to a 9. We called it a 7-9 squeeze. In this case, it's an odd front. It's an okie front. 2 3 techs and a 0 tech. All right, let's go. I got an asterisk beside it because talking with Coach Montjoy, I said, well, what would you consider the tight front? We pretty much came to an agreement that the best way to look at this was just look at it and say, what are they trying to accomplish? Are these guys sure enough pinching from these 4 eyes? And in essence, they're slanting into a bear front? Or are these guys playing hard on the inside, kind of trying to control half the tackle and keep guys off of the linebackers? And that makes a difference. What is that? You got to watch film and see, or what are they doing? Are they coming here in, or are they playing it hard right here on that inside half of your offensive tackles, and keeping them from getting downfield, keeping them from blocking down, keeping them on the line of scrimmage, freeing up, because you know they're going to have to double the nose with one of these guards. And if one guard gets out, that's only one guard getting out. So if you can keep the tackles on the line, which is the way a lot of old 50 teams, odd front teams, that was the whole goal. Keep these tackles on the line of scrimmage, keep them off the backers. You're only going to have one guard free to pick up a backer, which means, and that's the whole premise beside the tight front. And I'm saying when most people are spelling it T-I-T-E, what, I don't know. The principle is keep people off your backers, but you want free hitters. If you're running this defense and you're trying to bounce everything, spill everything out by taking this in here away from them, like from the two B's and the A, make them run C and wider, and you got free hitters and athletes. You usually got pretty good safeties when you run this defense. So what is it? What is the tight front? Is it an okie or is it a bear? It depends on how you want to attack it and how they want to attack you. That's all I can tell you. You got to look at the film. Are they playing hard inside, or are they staying right there on those tackles? And that, to me, I would consider staying on those tackles, okie, and slanting in here to the outside shoulder of the guards. I'd call that a bear front. You know, what are they trying to accomplish? And I imagine a lot of tight front teams can do both. And they can really mess with you once you get to thinking about them inside and they start spiking out to the C gaps. All right, that's it for this episode. Don't forget, get your copy of the Offensive Line Manual for Gap Down Backer or the Big Book of Bucks. You can do it by contacting me at siegel.chip@gmail.com. They're $30 each, or two for $50. You get both of them for $50. And there's both of them over 100 pages dedicated. The first one, Offensive Line Manual, here at the top, nothing but 100 pages teaching you how to teach your kids gap scheme blocking, filled with drills, filled with video clips. I send it to you. You don't have to wait. As soon as you say you want it, I send it right to you. And it comes as a Google slide. I share it to you so you can share it with your kids. You can share it with your coaches. You can, if you want to burn the ink, you can print it off, whatever you want to do. But it's something, if you're a head coach, you get this, you can share this with your offensive line coach, and he can put it on the screen and show it to the kids, show them the drills, show them what we're doing today, show them how we block this play, and then you go out and you do it. That's pretty cool. All right, then the Big Book of Bucks was kind of a vanity project by me. It's how to block the buck the way I do, blocking buck by the numbers. You'll see the drills in there. You'll see the hose that I use, the colored hose that I've done the videos on. And then I show you a bunch of different ways to run buck out of a multitude of formations. Multitude means a lot. There's that Troy State University education shining through again. You can't hide learning. So also, check out the new Spotify podcast. I'm trying to get it on Apple still, but it's on Spotify. I've got 4 up now. Got a 5th one about to go down on Sunday, go up on Sunday. And we've got several really good guests and got more coming. I got more in the can, waiting to get them edited. I'm going to release 1 a week. And let me know if you want to be on. Let me know if you know somebody that needs to be on. All right, if you want to dive deeper into any of the concepts or you want to install them, contact me again at siegel.chip@gmail.com for more info. And I am now doing in-person or video clinics, consultations, and installs. We'll get together on a Zoom or a Google Meet. All right, we can talk on the phone. If you're not too far away, I can come visit you. Contact me about that, and we'll see what we can set up. All right, let's see if I stirred a hornet's nest up here. If anybody's going to come back, oh, no, there's no more than 5. Okay, again, I'm just delivering. Don't get mad at the postman for bringing you the bill. I'm just delivering what 2 guys that know a lot more about football believe. And what do you think? Are there only 5 basic defensive fronts? You tell me. Hey, don't forget, like, subscribe, share. Oh, and be elite.